We should do a show, eh?
Yes.
Yeah?
Let's do it, mate.
And how quickly is the world going to change for the better with social enterprise and similar organisations kind of driving good?
I think pretty quickly. I think the world is changing quickly, and I think it's really easy to think that there's so many negative things happening because we see them all the time, but there's been some huge developments that have happened. You know, there's far less people living in poverty than there ever has been, and, you know, there's less people dying in childbirth, and, you know, there's significant improvements being made.
If you had to sum up what is Little Yellow Bird and what it does, can you do that really succinctly?
Yeah, so Little Yellow Bird makes corporate uniforms for businesses, but we make them ethically and sustainably using organic cottons.
At the Misprint Co, what we do is we make good-looking notebooks out of your waste paper.
Challenge.
Yeah, challenge accepted.
Twice, also known as 2 Weeks in Creative Endeavour, shares the stories, insights and journeys to now of creatives, innovators and social enterprises making a positive dent on society from Wellington, New Zealand. I'm your co-host, David Binstead. We're really grateful for episode support from Biz Dojo, Collider Wellington, our Patreon patrons and North End Brewery for craft beer support. In episode 50, we focus on social enterprise through the lens of 2 New Zealand organisations. Both are dedicated to creating a more sustainable product with less waste and environmental impact than what has gone before. Our first guest is co-founder of the Misprint Company, a social enterprise business repurposing discarded paper into beautiful and unique notebooks. With a bachelor's in visual communication honours from Massey University, specialising in design and advertising. She's a veteran of successful Pledge Me crowdfunding and the 2015 Lightning Lab Accelerator program. When she's not building an empire for good, as a qualified barista, she crafts mean caffeine, sniffs out the highest retail quality in spite of the price, loves good cheese and baking, and captures decisive moments as a keen photographer. 2 Weeks in Creative Endeavour, really pleased to welcome Jenny Buckler.
Hello, good to be here.
Our second guest is the canary in the coal mine when it comes to alerting the world about the impact of fast fashion. An ex-logistics officer with New Zealand Air Force, she now travels through India sourcing social and environmentally ethical suppliers for uniforms and clothing. Along with her business partner, she launched Little Yellow Bird 2 years ago this month and has been flying high ever since. 2 Weeks in Creative Endeavour, pleased to welcome Samantha Jones.
Hi, nice to see you.
Now, have you just been nominated for a Woman of Influence Award?
Yes, I just found out about that yesterday.
OMG!
Excellent.
Congrats!
That is awesome.
Thank you.
It's not like you haven't had a few other accolades along the way, though. I mean, like, you are a pretty highly awarded individual.
We've been really lucky with the exposure that we've gotten, and yeah, we sat next to Rebecca the other day at the Gold Awards, which was really exciting, and yeah, it was great.
Jenny, you've got a huge background in marketing and design and graphics and stuff. How did you get interested in that?
Well, I suppose I've always liked kind of, like, especially with graphic design, I've always liked like beautiful things and kind of well-crafted things, and I am very aware of like visual things. Like, I will look at things and kind of like bring them in that way instead of like reading something. I'll more like look at pictures and kind of stuff like that. So I've been definitely interested in the whole kind of visual aspect of whatever it may be, and so that's kind of, I think, where it kind of started off with the interest in design and stuff. But then going through uni, I gained more of a interest in advertising because I found it really interesting how by using really well-crafted images and words could affect someone's perception. I found that quite interesting, how the words and images mixed together could affect someone's perception so much so that they would buy something or like change their mindset or like something like that. So advertising is quite a powerful tool, and if it's done really well. But then again, there's some crap ads out there, but there are some really interesting ones too. So
just very briefly tell me about the superpower that you mentioned to me earlier. This ability to pick out the absolutely most expensive object almost anywhere in any sector or type.
It's so annoying, especially for my wallet. I don't know what it is. Clearly I just have expensive taste, but without the budget to go with it. So but yeah, no matter what it is, I think it's like textures, because I'm such a fan of like leather and like kind of like coppery kind of metals and like kind of well crafted like kind of things. And then when I go into stores, I'm like, oh, what's that? I want it. And then I look at it, I'm like, oh my god, I want this. Look at the price. I'm like, nah.
You can
Put
see
it back.
You can see quality. You can see the quality from a mile off.
Really?
Clearly, yeah.
Too much looking at visual things.
Just got to go get the champagne budget to go with the champagne taste.
Right? Yeah, we're working on that. We're working on that.
Do a startup because that's clearly
That's
the
way
road
to
to wealth. Thinking about advertising, you know, you guys are amazing at Misprint is really amazing at advertising yourselves and kind of all of your comms, and you've got your quirky little paper hat thing that you do.
Oh, thank you.
I guess, can you talk us through your experiences right from the beginning with the crowdfunding and the way that you've kind of marketed yourselves? Was that an easy road? Was it really, I guess, intuitive to know exactly how you wanted to push yourselves?
Well, it's something that actually developed quite organically. So when we first started Misprint, like just as a group of friends, we were just quite quirky, a little bit different. We didn't take things too seriously, and even using our video to apply for Lightning Lab, but we're basically just taking the mickey out of like ourselves and just kind of hamming things up and like literally dumpster diving in one shot. And then we saw some paper lying around. We're like, oh my god, let's make paper hats. And that's how the hats started, was because we were making the video, and then they've literally stuck with us, and we're like, these are our business hats now, we have to go everywhere with them. And then,
well, at the Gold Awards, they were wearing gold hats that were the Misprint hats, which was gorgeous and hilarious.
Our formal hats now. So I suppose our branding and our marketing is basically our personalities, and it's kind of developed from there. We've kind of refined it over the couple of years we've been in business, but like the core of it is just kooky, lighthearted, fun, not take things too seriously, but still kind of with a serious mission, and we want to kind of still convey that to our customers, being like, hey, what we're doing, there's a need for it, and this is why, but you can still have fun while doing it. So
doing good doesn't have to be boring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Sam, New Zealand Air Force, that must have been pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely was.
How many years?
6.
6 years, okay. So is that called a short commission?
Well, I don't know. The Air Force sponsored me through university, and then I was required to do 4 years, I think it was, after that. But you go on a 20-year contract, so I did not finish my contract. But I'd say that's like a fairly typical length of time.
Are you still in touch with your old Air Force buddies, and what do they think about what you're doing now?
Yeah, some of them. I've definitely stayed in contact with a core group of people, and a couple of them have left now as well. But yeah, I think, most people think it's pretty cool, but they only see the kind of fun side. Most people don't see the negative side, not negative, but like the hard work side.
Yeah, the hard graft that goes into it, and the kind of like craziness and making it up as you go along. Like you just get presented with the shiny picture at the end, don't you? Yeah,
but most of them are super supportive, and it's always good, especially because, I mean, my trade was logistics, which is super helpful for what we're doing. So, you know, I ask them questions and get their input and advice on different things, and that's usually pretty helpful. So our whole thing is around transparency of our supply chain, not just how the clothes are manufactured, but right back to the farming level. So we work quite closely with the co-ops that grow the cotton and know where the products have been ginned, dyed, woven, spun, and then finally stitched. So it's a pretty complicated process.
How did you first get those contacts, you know, when you first kind of came up with the idea? How did you get from the idea to being in India and meeting these individuals?
It kind of came about because I literally just had to go over there because no one was answering any of my emails. So I just went, and I kind of changed my tactic and said, you know, I've got these skills in logistics and operations, let me come and help you. And about 3 actually replied to that. And I just picked one and went over and met people and worked there for a few weeks and just kind of grew from there.
Wow. And then, so are you still with that same company and you've expanded out to others as well?
We've got 6 different factories that we use now. So each factory kind of specialises in different things. So generally all of our socks are made at one factory, and then T-shirts are all made at another factory, and business shirts are all made at another factory.
What was it like the first time you got your first customer? Yeah,
our first, I guess, big customer was Woohoo, the tax refund company. They ordered 50 shirts, and that was the first kind of like, oh yeah, this could work. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's always different. each new customer is exciting, and we love working with especially brands that are doing cool things. And
I just would like to put on the record that we have, I think, maybe 6 or 8 pomegranate kitchen t-shirts on order from Little Yellow Bird.
Oh, that's
So
awkward. I think you ordered 10.
Oh, damn it. So we're another real big player in the scene for Sam.
What are you going to do with all that money,
interest
Sam?
at
Oh
the
my
moment.
God.
I won't spend it all at once.
Yeah, exactly. And what about you, Jenny? Do you remember the first kind of big customers that you had, and how'd that make you feel?
I think our first, what we thought was a big order at the start was the spring program at Massey University when it was running. So we got an order of, this is before we'd kind of gotten through Lightning Lab or anything, but they decided to order 30 notebooks off us, and we're like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? Now we've got to source the paper and make it. Oh my God, now we've got to hand stitch it. Now we've got to trim around with the corners by hand. It was such a nightmare.
Probably really beautiful handcrafted ones.
They were 100% handmade. We even used the printers at Massey to print all the covers individually after cutting them down to A4. It was insane. It was kind of weird. I think our first proper, the second one when we were kind of starting to get all of our systems and stuff in place was when we got an order from Te Papa for one of their animation conferences, and there were 300 notebooks, and we're like, whoa, oh my God, this is even more intense. But by then we'd kind of partnered with Wakefield's Digital, who makes it, or kind of finishes our notebooks, binds and kind of makes them all beautiful. So it was a much easier process, but that was quite an exciting thing. So we still get the buzz now, closing orders and stuff. We've recently just closed a $1,200 or $1,200,000 notebook. I always do that. I don't know why.
1,200,000 notebooks? Oh my God.
Oh my God, sorry, hang on. I'm getting so confused.
Definitely buying the beers next time.
2 million? I don't know.
I'm terrible with numbers. Hang on. Sorry.
1,200,000.
Can't believe that they come on this piddling little show. They're just big league.
Famous.
Oh my gosh.
I mean 1,200.
Still a pretty good number.
Which is a pretty big order for us still. It's very exciting. I think I just got confused by saying thousands and numbers.
I always do that as well.
It's Karina that does the numbers though, isn't it?
It is. It is, thank God.
So Mabel's is getting the sales, and you're telling the story.
Yep.
And Karina's actually making sure you've got the right number of zeros on the end.
Yep. In a nutshell.
But your team is actually 4 people now, isn't it?
No, it's actually unfortunately 2 again.
Oh, 2 again.
So we unfortunately lost Mabel. It's very recently.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
which
that.
is sad. We're having a leaving party for her this Friday.
You make it sound like she's passed away.
It's we take team fluctuations very hard at the Misprint Co. It's quite a roller coaster.
But she's still with us.
Yeah. She's gone to a better place.
That is a 5,000%
corporate
change
sector.
in staff levels, according to your numbers, right?
11 billion %.
It's okay. You can absolutely call us out on our mistakes as well. It's it is part of the deal here. You thought it was all kind of nicey, but it's totally not.
Just coming across as a fool with numbers. No, but yes, Mabel is still with us. Thank God.
Hi, Mabel. Sorry to hear you're leaving. Please don't die. If they spike your drinks, don't drink it, okay?
Once you leave Misprint, you're dead to us.
I'm really interested, doing a little bit of research on all of our guests before we come and have a chat. And it is quite a challenge making analogue items, right? As opposed to the absolute scalability of the digital. Talk me through how you chose that as a product and why you think that's the right fit for what you're doing.
I don't think I chose the product. It kind of just happened. So I'd always just worn uniforms constantly in the military, and even, when you're full-time in a uniform and travelling a lot and living on base, you just kind of live in your uniform mostly. And so I didn't own really or buy a lot of clothing outside of that. And then when I left, all of a sudden I was having to make all these purchasing decisions, and it kind of dawned on me, the impact of those decisions. So that was part of it. And then also my sister, who at the time worked in a law firm, complaining constantly that she always wore the same business outfits as all of her colleagues. And so those kind of couple of things kind of sparked the idea of doing business shirts, and we started off with women's business shirts, and then eventually worked out that corporate uniforms was a good kind of fit for us. But physical products are super hard. And if you make a mistake with something, it's really costly and time consuming. So it's challenging, but I think I'm naturally more of a product person than a tech person. So it kind of fits with my skill set, and I guess the whole logistics side helps with that. I'm used to dealing with physical product and moving them around.
Jenny, how about you in terms of the product you sell? To me, looking from the outside, there's two key products that you sell. One is the story of what you do, and the other is the actual thing that you sell. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So one of our goals is behaviour change. So the notebook is a vehicle to kind of communicate with our customers and our crowd about sustainability and how repurposing can save water, reduce carbon, and all that kind of stuff as well.
You touched on a little bit earlier about the ethics of doing advertising right.
Working with your own brand, it's given us the opportunity to kind of tell the story and tell it with authenticity and transparency and all that kind of stuff. And like, we don't want to lie to our customers, and good advertising is just communication done really well and telling the truth. Yeah, so for Misprint and everything, I think we're really clear with how we communicate. We don't want to sell people crap, and we're not selling people crap. So,
and it's almost like, advertising often exists in this kind of ethicsless sphere, doesn't it? That they're not accountable to anyone but their individual business stakeholders, which means that, there's not kind of a greater purpose or a greater good or anything that you're trying to encourage customers to also think about. And that's where you guys differ, because you're using those advertising tactics, but it's to invite people to, consider and join a movement, really.
Yeah.
So you didn't sell your soul to the devil.
No. No, I didn't. I kept it.
Sam, with Little Yellow Bird, how active are you guys in the kind of greater political space?
I wouldn't say we've really dipped our toes into the political waters at all, but I think we're quite big on the campaigning and educational side. It would be great if New Zealand really supported ethical companies and ensuring that offshore manufacturing is done sustainably, or having a policy or a bill against, using exploited labour. If your products are being produced where the country's minimum wages really cannot sustain the lives of people in a fair way, then that's like a really easy way for us to change that if we have policies that mandate it.
And what about in your, both of you actually, in your personal lives, how much do you see yourselves as sort of like an ambassador for change in these areas? And do you feel like sometimes your friends are like, oh, I'm wearing Glasson's clothes, or like, oh, I'm using just paper and then I'm chucking it out? Sam, you go first.
I think people think that I judge them for what they wear when I actually don't. So
yes, you do. Of course you do.
I have definitely seen more people changing, I guess, because they hear me talking about things, or we discuss it more. A lot of people send me, links to brands and say, oh, would you buy this? Or where can I buy ethical jeans from, for example? And that's really cool to see, because there are so many great companies, but most of them have really small advertising budgets. And so unless you're constantly seeking them out, most of them aren't really known.
Recently you wrote a blog post on your website about op shops in Wellington, and it just took over every feed I've got anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a hugely social creature, but it was kind of like, wow. Either she's paid people, which I know you haven't, or it's people like, this is a lovely article, it's really nicely written.
I mean, I always think that buying secondhand stuff is even better than buying organic or fair trade, because it's something that already exists. Because even creating one of our products takes a lot of energy and a lot of resources that we can't really afford to be using. So that's why I love op shopping so much, and Wellington's just got so many great places.
I see your long game. You're going to popularise uniforms as a future fashion, and when they need to be reused, they're going to go all the way through the op shop kind of ecosystem, and it's going to be your stuff as well. That's just incredible. I'm so impressed, Sam.
Uniforms as future fashion is a bit scary, isn't it? It's a little bit like dystopian future.
Yeah, well, the dress I'm wearing today is actually for a uniform. It's going to be a company's uniform.
Is it?
It's one of ours, and yeah, we're trying to make them stylish enough that, you know, people would be happy to wear it. And I'm trialing it at the moment, and I get so many great comments about it. So we're like, yeah, this one's going to work.
I'm just going to describe it for the listeners. It's sort of this thin black material, and it's quite a large dress that's then got a tie around the waist to pull it in. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so this dress was a collab with actually another Wellington designer. So Bone Style Club actually did the pattern for it. So yeah, we're trying to work with other brands that are in the space.
This sense of collaboration.
We love doing collaborations. So I think the first collaboration we did was with Egmont Street Eatery, and we just approached them and been like, hey, we can turn your old menu covers into little notebooks, and by doing that, if they buy one, they could get a free coffee. And that went really well, and that was really cool. And then from there, we kind of did collaborations with like Wellington on a Plate, which was really cool. And then we've like collaborated with Little Yellow Bird to create our business t-shirts, which was really cool. And then we put like a pattern on the t-shirts, which was awesome. And then now we're doing like every season a guest artist submission. So what we really want to do is kind of help give like budding artists exposure, and provide like a really cool funky notebook, which is a bit different and all that kind of stuff as well. But then even with all the customers, we just encourage them to kind of put their own spin on the notebook and kind of brand it up, make it theirs, because it just tells a greater story, and it's just really cool to see what other people come up with. So yeah, and it's just really cool to work with other amazing companies around as well. So yeah.
Who would you like to work with that you haven't managed to get to yet?
Whoa.
SpaceX?
I'm sure.
Who's that? What's SpaceX?
Oh, some Elon Musk kind of guy.
Oh.
Yeah, he's not very successful, so don't really worry about him.
Yeah, I think what would be really cool is just to kind of keep working with other kind of local businesses as well. Kind of, we want to, I think, working with like the Chocolate Factory and like Wellington Chocolate Factory, maybe even Allbirds. I don't know how that would work, but that would be kind of fun.
I emailed them, they did not reply.
Oh,
ouch.
Wow.
That's awkward.
Yet. Didn't reply yet.
There's still time.
Positive. Although, to be fair, it was Jenny that said she was the optimist, and you didn't give us a straight answer on that one, did you?
I said I was pragmatic.
Pragmatist. Oh, yeah, there was a little bit of negativity coming in there on that pragmatism, though. Did you notice that?
I did not.
I was like a late save when I said yet.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. We'll make some
Even
inquiries.
pragmatists are allowed to be pessimistic sometimes
True.
when faced with reality. Twice, an acronym for 2 weeks in creative endeavour, strives to capture and share good news stories and insights from social enterprises, creatives and innovators from New Zealand. We're up to 50 fortnightly episodes which reach listeners across New Zealand and overseas. To make that time-consuming and rewarding effort sustainable, we're stoked to receive episode sponsorship from BizDojo. BizDojo are creating and facilitating communities of talented, interesting and clever humans pursuing their passions through a network of co-work ventures across New Zealand. With flexible options for small and large teams and monthly contract-free plans starting from $399 New Zealand dollars, ride with purpose over to bizdojo.com and at BizDojo on Twitter and Instagram to find out more. Grateful thanks to BizDojo for their ongoing support of this show.
Are you ready for a first brew?
Yeah.
Really lucky to have 2 beers supplied this time round by North End Brewing. So, kia ora.
That's nice. I feel like I could drink a lot of that.
Yeah, that's very drinkable. It's quite fruity.
Not too like strong craft beer, kind of, make you fall asleep in your face kind of thing. Yeah,
that would go down well with pizza.
It would. Sorry, I should say that we're drinking the North End Pilsner, and it has a kind of red, black and purple.
It'd look good on a t-shirt.
And a notebook.
We'll come to that really shortly, don't you worry. What sort of stuff do you normally drink? What are your preferences there? Asking for a friend.
Depends on the mood. Like, if I'm at a bar, I'll usually get a beer. If I'm having dinner, I'll usually have a wine. But if I want something a bit more, then I'll have like a whiskey.
Can't do whiskey. Gin and tonic though.
That's another good one. Another good one.
Ah.
So just everything is what I'm hearing.
Not tequila. I can't do tequila either.
Neither can I. I think it's just a flashback for being like,
18 and
exactly like a student in gross bars and having shots. And now even if you have really beautiful tequila or like tequila in a nice cocktail, I just still
brings back memories.
It does. I feel so uncultured about it, but it's like, yeah, it just tastes like one. If I have it in a cocktail, it just tastes like one long shot to me, like prolonging the pain.
Yeah, bourbon for me is one that I'm like, I don't really understand. Like, I don't know, it's really sweet, and it's something that I can't really drink a lot of, or really drink at all.
Sam, tell me more about whiskey.
I just don't like the taste of it. Never have. Not even any bad memories, just any kind of dark liquors I don't really like.
When do you think you drink this in the future, if at all?
If it ever gets sunny again. It feels like a nice barbecue kind of beer, like a summer beer.
Yeah, I agree.
How about you, Jenny?
Yeah, I'd definitely kind of drink it on a beach or just like chilling with friends with some tunes in the background. It feels like a leisurely beer.
Yeah, so maybe it's one for drinking like on the beach in Paikakariki in the middle of the summer, responsibly, obviously.
Absolutely.
If you're
Would
drinking around
train
water.
there, not drive, right?
Yeah. So what rating would you give it, Dave?
Final comment. Not a great Pilsner person, but this has got a bit of depth and body to it. I mean, I like what you said, Jenny, about the slight fruitiness. It's a bit more interesting. It's not too plain. I'm interested to find out how strong it is, though.
5%.
Oh, yeah.
1.3 standard drinks. Brewed in Waikanae.
For an everyday beer, this is great. I'm going to give this a 3.8 out of 5. How about you, Jenny?
I was going to give this a 4. So I quite enjoy it. It's like some Pilsners are quite smack you in the face sometimes. But this one's quite like a little bit more subtle, which I kind of enjoy. So yeah, 4.
How about you, Sam?
I'm going to give it a merit. So I'm going to go with the NCA school system.
And any final comment to support, as in any teacher's notes to go with the mark?
Shows promise. Yeah.
Easily distracted in class.
How about you, Beck?
Yeah, I'd probably say a 3. Yeah, it's just kind of really easy to drink and kind of middling and happy to start off with that of an evening.
Would this be a Tinder date beer? Asking for a friend?
I think anything's a Tinder date beer.
I don't know, yeah, no, maybe something stronger to get the conversation flowing. But often Tinder dates can be quite boring, so at least, I wouldn't fall asleep like I would with a craft beer. So, yeah, potentially.
Hey, there's a few other things I want to cover off quickly. First of them is social enterprise. I want to get to the why you consider yourselves a social enterprise and what is it that's about your business or organisation that aligns really well with that methodology.
Well, I think for Misprint, like when we first started out, we kind of found we never really fit the mold of a traditional business. And we're like, why is this? What's happening? And we discovered social enterprise and we're like, oh, okay, this is more comfortable. I kind of get this. So we've always kind of defined ourselves as a for-profit business, but with social and environmental impact at its core. So that's how we define ourselves, as a social enterprise.
What was it about the traditional business model that you didn't identify with? And then what felt more comfortable about that new label?
We were very much, you can save 10 litres of water per A4 sheet repurposed. And we're like, this is really cool. And it's a shit because it takes 10 litres of water to make a piece of paper. But the idea that you can kind of save water so easily, and then there's a whole bunch of other awesome sustainable things about like repurposing and like the circular economy. You're like, this just makes sense. Like, why aren't more businesses kind of doing their bit for the environment or for like social and stuff as well? So I think that's kind of how we were like, actually there's more to business than just the bottom line and making a profit. So, and we value our impact, and it is key. So when we do like advisory board meetings, we always talk about our impact as well, because it's like core to our business.
And you get to drive an Audi pretty much every day. Talk to us about that, because that's not quite as clear cut as it sounds.
Yeah, no. So when we do our collection runs, since our collection boxes are quite big, and obviously our hand truck only goes so far, and we've got a few businesses out in like the Heart and like up massive hills, like Met Service, like the gigantic hill, Island Bay, all over kind of Wellington and stuff. And we were like, oh, okay, there must be an easy way to do this, and let's see if we can kind of collaborate with someone. And our mates at Mevo were like, hey, we have electric cars. So that's how we got to drive Audis, which is pretty exciting. So
is there ever a time where you're like, oh, we need a car, but it's not free, or do they just like block out bits?
To be honest, well, I mean, because we schedule our runs, so and we know Eric and Finn and stuff, we're like, hey, we need a Mevo, and they're like, sure. And so we just kind of open our app, book it, and then walk down, and then the car unlocks by the app, and you're like, oh, this is really weird because where's my key? And then you press a button, and you're like, yeah, it's super simple, and the app's really easy to use, and it's quite good.
One thing is that you make the notebooks, and the other one is that you collaborate with business to collect their leftover paper. Can you just talk briefly to that?
Our services are called EcoLoop and Offset. So we work with local businesses and even around New Zealand now, where we kind of put a collection box in their space, and we collect their single-sided, non-confidential paper. And then once their box kind of fills up, they give us a call, and we drive around in a Mevo or our hand truck and pick it up, and then repurpose it into notebooks, which then they can brand, and then we sell back to them. So that's our EcoLoop service, which is our closed loop cycle.
Sam, can you just talk to me about why you chose social enterprise? Because you're also a certified B Corp as well, and it does feel a little bit like the competition of the movement, so to speak.
We are a social enterprise. I think social enterprises are businesses that are trying to solve a problem, a social problem. But at the same time, I kind of see that the way we do business is just how everyone should do business. Like all fashion companies should pay their workers to make their clothes, and they should pay them, a decent amount. So, I mean, at the moment we're labelled as a social enterprise, but, the hope is over time that just becomes the norm.
This seems like a really perfect time to be doing what you're doing, because that conversation, especially after that awful factory collapse and so forth in Bangladesh, that conversation's happening everywhere in the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, where do your clothes come from, and what impact does fast fashion have?
Totally. And I think the fashion industry is a really great example of people really caring about where their stuff comes from. Clothing has become this real thing about knowing where it's made, but there's so many other products, and you'll buy some widget for 50 cents, but like depending what it is, you're like, if you think, how can they make this for 50 cents?
Someone's paying the cost.
Yeah, then someone somewhere is paying for that. The simple thing is just purchase less of the stuff. I mean, that's a pretty easy change to make.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, absolutely.
To what extent do you think the story is getting more difficult to actually get it to your audience because of marketing fragmentation? Jenny?
For us, it can be quite difficult to convey our message, and in particular our product. And so we have to do a lot of education about what repurposing is.
Was there a part of you that thought, oh, but everyone's using iPads anyway, or is there always a place for paper and notebooks still today?
There's definitely always a place for paper and notebooks. I think notebook sales have increased over the past few years.
Starting with Sam, if you have any advice for somebody thinking of setting up either as a startup or some other kind of business or as a social enterprise, do you have any learns that you feel able to share with us that will help people get going a bit quicker? Obviously not competing with you.
I definitely felt that there was a pressure to make things really perfect before you kind of launch, and I always just tell people just to start, because it's never going to be perfect at the beginning. And there's that great quote by the founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman: if you're not embarrassed by your first version, then you've launched too late.
Jenny, how about yourself? Learns for other budding entrepreneurs.
I think if you have an idea and you have the passion, just do it. It's super rewarding, and even if you fail, you would have learnt heaps as well, and making sure you have like a good support network around you, and people who you can rely on, because things are going to go pear-shaped.
Jenny, first, worst and best jobs.
First job, classic paper/circular round. I haven't had like many jobs. I was kind of that person who had worked in like hospo and then graduated and then weirdly started a business. So I've never really, I suppose I don't see myself as having like a full-on, I've never had a prop in what I deem like a proper corporate 40-hour week job. Like, I've never experienced that life. I just kind of went into startup, which is a whole nother ball game.
What about your best job?
This, I honestly wouldn't know what I'd do. Like, I'd be like, what do you mean I can't just kind of go out for a coffee now? Like, I need a caffeine hit. What do you mean I have to wait till lunch? That's weird.
So it's mostly about your breaks. That's the real reason you love your job.
That was just one example. But no, just kind of creating your own work schedule and kind of doing what you want to do on whatever time, and not
That freedom, eh?
Yeah. So
Do you have a dream job?
obviously my love of cheese. I mean, it'd be really cool to be a cheesemaker, or like kind of one of those professional cheese and wine tasters. I think that'd be really fun.
Hey, Sam, how about you? Had a bit of a chance to think about first, worst and best.
So my first job was working at Muffin Break. Maybe also worst, potentially. Yeah, I mean, I guess best. I think my job now is pretty cool. But a specific moment in my last job, which is always like the best job moment, or the best job, I guess, that I've done. I was in Singapore for 4 weeks working with a bunch of different militaries, but for some reason I didn't really have an actual role. But it ended up being me taking a Chinook, which is this massive helicopter, out to the Gulf, landing on the back of a naval ship and sitting there taking notes for this meeting. And I was like, man, this is cool.
I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That does sound pretty great.
Just a quick straw.
Right, so on that note, Jenny, what's coming up for you next, personally, professionally?
I mean, big plans for Misprint. I mean, it probably won't happen at the end of the year, but you never know. So big plans for us is to kind of start developing a Misprint hub up in Auckland. So we've kind of started to have a few meetings up there and kind of getting our ducks in a row, and there's still a few more things to sort out, but it's definitely in sight now. Like, we used to just say it as like, oh well, yeah, one day we'll be in Auckland, but not really knowing how. But now we kind of know how, which is quite exciting.
How about for you, Sam?
So the rest of this year, we're pretty focused on a customer that we kind of just really randomly got that's based in the US. So they just found us online and reached out, and we delivered a bunch of uniforms to them probably about a month ago, and they want us for all their stores now.
The Social Enterprise World Forum is coming up, so I'd like to give it a shout out to them, because they're doing amazing things about kind of creating the awareness about social enterprise, and we're also supplying their notebooks, which is very exciting.
Wow, that's a big job. That's awesome.
That's very exciting. Yeah, and they're just awesome. So I think everyone should go to that in September.
I want to do a shout out actually for Okiwa Rainwear, because I got one of their coats yesterday, and they're a ethical company making their coats here in New Zealand, and it was terrible weather on the way down here. It was raining and hailing, and they're very, very waterproof.
And they look cool.
So, Jenny, what analogue object, I feel like I know what it's going to be, but what analogue object can you not live without?
I'd say my notebook.
Oh, God. Company woman. Crikey. Apart from a notebook.
Yeah, okay, apart from a notebook.
Can I say a kettle?
Yes, that's a good one.
Like, just a
Straight up kettle.
So, Sam, how about you? An analogue item, object or thing that at the moment you can't live without?
It's a generic thing, but I really like physical books as opposed to reading them online. I don't really enjoy reading on a Kindle or a laptop or a phone. And I don't think that's something I'll change.
Super quick follow-up question. Book of the moment, any recommendations?
I just recently read this book called Doing Good Better by William McCaskill. And I thought that was super interesting about effective altruism, and we often think we're doing something good, but there's all these unintended consequences and all these other aspects that are often forgotten. And I think it was just a really good reminder for me of thinking about some of those things. So I really enjoyed that book.
I want to take a short break to thank Collider Wellington for sponsoring this episode. Their support helps David sustainably continue to publish fortnightly, or even more regular episodes, for your listening pleasure. Collider Wellington is a monthly program of events where you can seek out some of the smartest people on the planet, learn something new, and access world-class intelligence. Its purpose is connecting thought leaders, emergent entrepreneurs, and inspirational experts to support the growth of the greatest little city on earth, Wellington, New Zealand. For all the deets, go to colliderwellington.com. That's spelt Collider, WGTN.com. A grateful thanks to Collider Wellington and Wellington City Council for their support of this show.
I think it might be a great opportunity to get a second brew on the go. Would that be
Why not?
amenable?
That was a good one.
That was so satisfying.
What do you think about the whole bottles versus cans versus flagons debate?
If I had to pick, I'd go flagon.
Flagons just sound fun.
Like, cool.
They're the massive ones, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, what are your normal favourite styles of beer?
I usually go for like either an IPA or a Pilsner, but then on like cold nights I'll go for like a stout.
Oh, we should talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, stout, porter.
Cheers.
I'm more, it's easier to tell you what I don't like, which is really dark beers. Like the really dark ones. What's that? Yeah. Ugh.
Stouts and porters.
We'll talk, but not in the same way.
Talk about other stuff.
Cheers, everybody.
It is a North End Fieldway APA, Aotearoa Pale Ale. Our hop-forward pale ale is bursting with hops grown across the strait in Nelson. Sweet lemon, lime and mandarin marmalade.
Marmalade.
Anyone tasting that? Joined by a hint of the herb garden. And tempered by malt from the Rangitikei, a homegrown classic.
It was really weird, but my first initial thought was a tiny bit of licorice. Anybody else? What did you get?
I'm not getting licorice, but I'm not getting lemon lime marmalade either.
I just get really hops everywhere.
Like beer?
Yeah. I like it, but I can't really distinguish much.
Pretty bold, pretty intense.
I prefer this one to the
Yeah, so do I.
to the first one.
Yeah, I think this is what I mean when I want like not a really strong craft beer, but I don't want one that tastes like kind of nothing either. Yeah, it does kind of stick around, doesn't it?
What have we what have we got on the ABV or the content?
5.8.
Ooh, strong.
Bit stronger.
Yeah, a little bit stronger.
And what do we think of the packaging?
Loving the blue. Very vibrant.
Blue and black.
Designer's perspective, how have they done, Jenny?
It's quite simple though, but I quite like the detail, the waves and kind of the illustrative kind of things around the top and the bottom. I think that's quite cool. It'd probably stand out quite well purely because of the contrasting with the black and the bright blue. But yeah, solid design.
Jenny, would you have this, our second brew, the North End Brewing APA, on a Tinder date?
How many would you have to drink if you met someone's whole family?
Like the entire keg? Like, I might die, but you know.
If it was a dentist Tinder date.
I feel like I'd need to be a solid 5 beds down to even contemplate staying, which I would not make it through 5 beers.
All right, let's put the Tinder aside and come back to the beer. Do you have any final thoughts about, from initial comments, what you really think of it, where you might drink it, and also how much you'd rate it for?
This is definitely, I'd say, an after-work beer on a Friday or a Thursday with friends, chewing the fat. I'd definitely, if I saw it on a tap again, I'd definitely have it. But I mean, I kind of like to go and like taste a couple before I purchase a beer if I'm like have the time and can be bothered. But it's quite fun to do. I don't know, I quite enjoy it. I mean, I'd definitely drink this again. So I would rate it again a 4.
Oh.
Not 1,200,000.
I mean, I'd like to,
Million,
but
trillion.
1200,000. I can't even spit my words out.
Folks, drink responsibly.
I've had like 2 thimbles full.
All right, awesome. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, I like it. It does taste more fruity the more you drink it, I think. It's good. Yeah, just a casual kind of beer. Drinkable. I feel like I've chosen a poor rating system because you know,
what even are the NCA? There's merit and then
achieved. And excellence.
What's achieved? That would be a real cold blow for a beer.
Yeah,
like, achieved. Like, you are a beer.
Yeah.
You achieved that.
You managed to get yourself into a can or a bottle.
Good on you.
But you know what I always found really odd, because I went to school overseas and then came back to New Zealand, and previously it was like an ABC kind of
when I went to school it was
ranking. Yeah. And then I came to New Zealand for a couple of years, and if you got an achieved, you could just show your parents an A.
Oh.
And they were like, oh yeah, that's good, because my parents didn't know the new system.
Can you give us your score bit in Russian?
Хорошо.
Хорошо. What does that mean?
Good.
Excellent.
Superb. How about you, Beck?
Yeah, I think a bit of an improvement on the last one, so I'd say 3.5. Yeah, just a little bit more interesting. Again, drinkable session beer, or have it at Goldings.
I'm going to go 4.2. I quite like this. Really grateful to Jane and the crew at North End Brewery.
So Jenny, where can we find you publicly online?
At the Misprint Co. And we're also on LinkedIn.
What's your home address?
Oh my gosh. The cupboard under the stairs.
The Misprint box.
Sam, where can we find you publicly online?
You can find Little Yellow Bird at www.littleyellowbird.co.nz, or Instagram and Twitter is at LYB_uniforms.
Beck, where can we find you online?
I'm on Twitter, but I'm just not very interesting on there. I'm at Bo_Recca, RECKA. Find me on Instagram at Bo_Recca.
You can find us at Twice Podcast on Twitter at Twice Podcast. Same at Instagram. You can reach me on Twitter at David_Binstead. It also leaves me to thank our supporters and sponsors, Biz Dojo, Collider Wellington, our Patreon patrons, and also North End Brewing. It just leaves us to thank two incredible, amazing, patient, courteous, kind, generous, thoughtful, sometimes not very good at maths guests. Firstly, Jenny Buckler.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yep, and secondly, Sam Jones.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Do you prefer Samantha Jones?
I don't mind.
Do you prefer Sam Ray? Oh my God. Do you prefer Sam Rae-Jones?
I don't mind, as long as people don't say Sam Ray, which is what a lot of my friends do.
Sammy Ray.
Yeah.
That's so horrible.
Yeah.
Favourite food at the moment?
Cheese.
Excellent. Done. Podcast over.
Yeah. Bit more detail?
Blue cheese.
Wow.
We bond a lot over cheese, because there's always a lot of leftover cheese at Creative HQ. Yeah.
What do you do in your spare time, if you have any?
That's a good question. I'm usually researching something to do with the business, so it's still kind of business aligned, but I really like looking at what other kind of fashion companies are doing and other social enterprises, and but I've been away for the last 2 months, so I've had no free time. So now I'm like, oh, what do I do when I have free time?
Where have you been? You've been in India?
Yeah, I spent some time in India, and then the last couple of weeks I've been in Hawaii with a women's leadership development conference, and it brought 14 women from 12 different countries, and we all worked on our various businesses that all had kind of a social element to them.
There's a bit of fuzz somewhere. Or is it
I think
the
it's
rain?
the hail.
The buzz, in fact, is the hail.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is it?
Wow. We're not going anywhere soon, are we?
No. Settle in. 4-hour podcast coming up.
Mountains or beaches?
Beaches.
We're like the same person.
Yeah, that's so person.
I feel like there's been a real sense of hopefulness from both of you today. Yeah, I feel like the last word is hope. Hope for the future.
Was it like Train Spotting? Choose life.
Just hope. Or Just Start. That's been something that really resonated with me, because that's what one of our board members said to me at the beginning when I was like, I don't know how to start a catering company, and then they said, just start, and that's something that really you have kind of come down on as well. So yeah, just start.
I once met this guy's entire family on the second date,